I'm Dr. John Gartner.
And I'm Dr. Harry Segal.
And welcome to this preview of Shrinking Trump.
It's a weekly podcast that John and I host every week, looking at the ways in which Donald Trump exhibits early signs of dementia, as well as a severe personality disorder that we call malignant narcissism. And we're here to raise awareness of these issues so that the public and the press and the ruling class can understand it more deeply.
And now we really have an opportunity to help the public and the press realize this more deeply because of the amazing work George Conway has done in founding a political action committee whose sole mission, well, there's two missions actually. The first mission is to educate the public about Donald Trump's dangerous personality disorder and cognitive decline, as Harry was saying, through ads and billboards that you're going to be seeing pretty soon. And you may have already seen some of them on Twitter. Well, last week, we had George Conway on the show, and he made a prediction and also expressed that there is a second strategy in the anti-psychopac.
For years now, actually, because I really formed this theory of that you can basically trigger him because of his, I mean, look, you can't control this man, but you can manipulate him. Easy to manipulate. And we're going to manipulate him into showing his true colors. I'm openly saying this.
Yes.
Okay, because we know how to provoke him.
Now, there are three guys you can trust.
So this is a really interesting strategy. Okay. He's actually trying to provoke Trump, right, into acting crazier by confronting him with the truth about himself. So one of his strategies was that he was going to microcast one of the ads that he made about Trump's having cognitive decline. He had it beamed into Bedford, New Jersey, and Palm Beach, Florida, on the Golf Channel, on Fox News, and on ESPN, with the hope that Trump would actually see it and be enraged by it and provoked by it and not feel like he was in a safe space anymore in his clubs. And his prediction was that his reaction would be that he would act even crazier and expose who he really is. Well, I have to say, now as psychologists, right, we call these things hypotheses. When people make a prediction, right, then we see if the data backs it up. And in fact, what George is doing is a particular kind of science we call an experiment. An experiment is when we manipulate an independent variable, in this case, showing ads about Trump's cognitive decline, and then we measure a dependent variable, Trump talking crazy in reaction. So after he showed that ad, let's look at the Truth Social post that Trump posted the next day.
Why is Fox News putting on crazy Kamala Harris rallies? Why do they allow the perverts at the failed and disgraced Lincoln Project to advertise on Fox News? Even Mr. Kellyanne Conway, a man so badly hurt and humiliated by his wife, she must have done some really nasty things to him because he is crazy, is advertising on Fox News. We have to win without Fox. Now, George comments on that. He says, well, it seems like Trump didn't like our ad because clearly he's reacting to the ad. He's even mentioning Conway. So at Duty to Warn, we retweeted that saying, George Conway's anti-psychopath pack showed ads about Trump's malignant narcissism on Fox. And like a malignant narcissist, Trump melted down and lashed out like the wounded animal at everyone. Sorry, I can't read my own tweet. And lashed out like a wounded animal at everyone, including Fox. That's important. The ketchup will be flying at Mar-a-Lago. And I want to say there were a bunch of other psychologists who also retweeted George's tweet. I don't have time to go into all of them today, but made some really, if you go to George's page, he retweeted a lot of them. There's a lot of sort of psychological insights that people offered about Trump's reaction to this narcissistic injury and how it's so typical of his disorder.
Yes. No, it's very, very effective. My thought about Trump is he has no long game because his narcissistic organization is so fragile that every minute is as important as the next moment. So if you insult him or diminish him, he strikes out, even if it doesn't help him in the long run, because every moment is the present. Every moment, the stakes are extremely high. So if suddenly George is playing these ads where he lives, Trump is going to strike out right away. And of course he did.
And one of the things that they say in politics is if you're explaining, you're losing, right? So it's not in Trump's interest to say, I don't have cognitive decline. Okay. But like you said, he can't not react. So last night at his rally, well, let me say before, I was not watching his rally last night. I'd been working on this show all day. I'd had it. I was ready to go to bed. I was in my pajamas in bed, okay, when George Conway called. He said, did you see Trump tonight? I said, well, no, I'm finally not paying attention to Trump for once. And he said, well, you got to go look at it, because lo and behold, he got a reaction.
Oh, they go crazy when they want to try and say, he's cognitively impaired. You know, I stand up here for 2 hours and I speak without a mistake. But when I say Hannibal Lecter, they say, why does he keep mentioning it? Because Hannibal Lecter was a serious psycho, right? He was Silence of the Lambs. Dr. Hannibal Lecter, he'd like to have you for dinner. See the man with the wall? Stand up. Look at this guy. He's here so much. He's great. He's great. He's a Trump voter. I don't think we have to worry about him, do we? He's a Trump voter all the way. But Hannibal Lecter would like to have you for dinner.
So again, the crazy stuff about Hannibal Lecter, but he feels like he has to defend himself against the charge, right? Because he's being confronted with it. So, Harry, in the movies, psychologists are often portrayed as these sort of conniving, evil figures who use their psychological knowledge to manipulate and exploit people. And I've always felt that was a very inaccurate portrayal of psychologists. I hate those movies, but I feel a little bit villainous and excited about the idea of driving Trump crazy.
I know how Dickie Smothers felt. Oh, John, I get it. And there is this sense we have that here's somebody who's deeply disturbed, malevolent, pathological liar, sadistic, and he could very well become president again. It's not, I understand that Kamala Harris is doing really well, and I'm really optimistic, but he could win. And we have to point out relentlessly who this man is. And if you do it, John, with humor and enjoying provoking him, go for it.
Yeah. You know what I always say? When they go low, we go lower. Boom, boom, boom.
Well, the important thing that we're trying to do is to educate the public to understand why Trump's spontaneous self is really so virulent, vile, destructive, and a true threat to the life that we live politically and socially.
One of the points that George did want us to make is that this may be a kind of a proof of concept, which is it might really make sense, not just for the anti-psycho pact, but other political action committees or other left-wing organizations, the Lincoln Project, what have you, to microcast some of their advertising to his safe spaces. Because if he walks into the dining room at Mar-a-Lago and he sees everybody watching Fox and there's an anti-Trump ad on there, it's going to destabilize him. It's really a strategy worth considering. I mean, I just want to give George credit because this is kind of an original and kind of slightly off the wall strategy that he's showing is working. And if it's working, then, when you get positively reinforced, the behaviors, you increase the behavior.
Well, it's one approach. It's one tactic.
Right.
The largest one, though, is to be swept up in the optimism about the future that Kamala Harris has been bringing to her speeches, to her being. And if that sweeps the country, and provoking Trump helps to bring voters over the line so that Trump is not reelected, and by the way, will then have to stand trial, I think that would be great. So I think of it as one of the tactics that we have.
Yeah. And if you watch our show, you'll see that we explore in depth the new psychological phenomenon of Kamalomania, having such symptoms as frequent crying, ingratitude, and relief.
So listen, watch our show. We have so much information to share with you this week.